Hi, I'm Ryan from First Edition's Shrubs and Trees, and welcome to Steal the Look. I'm gonna pop in as you watch these fantastic garden tours from our friends at Garden Gate Magazine to share design ideas, plant recommendations, regional tips, and so much more. All so that you can walk away knowing how to steal the look for your space. Today, we'll be touring Lori and Jim Bochner's cottage garden in Zone 5, Iowa. Let's go.
Hi, I'm Sherry with Garden Gate Magazine, and I'm here today at Bochner Farms with Lori and Jim Bochner, who run a cut flower farm. But recently they've installed this beautiful cottage garden, and so I thought I'd talk to them a little bit about how they did it and what they did. And it wasn't there wasn't anything here when you started, is that right? Can you tell us a little bit more?
It was just grass. Nothing was here. It was probably mostly weeds. And then last fall we decided, I don't know, I had this weird feeling that I just had to build a cottage garden.
For those who don't know, a cottage garden is an informal garden that's whimsical, colorful, and easy. Typically, these gardens are bursting at the seams with multi-season color, using more traditional materials, and are usually combining an ornamental and edible plants.
And we're flower farmers, so we're very busy.
Yeah.
Didn't have it in our plans at all, but I just had this feeling that I had to build this cottage garden. It had to be a big, magnificent cottage garden. So late September last year, so this is only a year old, almost a year old.
Amazing.
We started building, and it's 22 raised beds.
Great.
And I organized them in a fun pattern that would be a good place to walk through. I wanted it to be abundant and colorful. And so they tilled up the land. We've covered all of the ground. I don't know what the dimensions are.
I don't remember the dimensions.
Probably 40 by 120 or something.
I know the boxes are 2 by 12s.
Don't worry if you don't have the same amount of space to work with. You can still create a gorgeous cottage garden in a smaller space. When you're pulling your plant list together, you can use a smaller number of plants just to make sure that they're giving you color through foliage or flowers the entire growing season.
And how did you make the boxes? What are they made of? And
Treated brown wood. They're 2 by 12s, and then we did 12-foot boxes by 4 foot wide. So we wanted a little height to it.
cool. And you did the raised beds because the soil?
So I wanted to do the raised beds because I wanted things to be elevated. Well, first probably the soil, because we have pretty bad clay soil, and it was the end of the season when we wanted to get started, and I wanted to get all the beds built before winter hit.
Oh yeah.
So we didn't really have time to spend all the time mending the soil and getting it ready. So it was kind of dual purpose, but mostly I think it was just, even if we had nice soil, I think I still like the look of the raised gardens, and then it has like deeper pathways.
Sure.
Makes kind of a labyrinth too, and you don't have to bend as far.
Yeah.
Raised beds are great for all the reasons that Lori and Jim mentioned, and especially if you're moving into a new space and just kind of want to see how things work. I also love using them for urban vegetable gardens.
That's always good.
So we spent end of September, October building out all the beds. And then our granddaughter passed away in November, very unexpectedly.
Yeah.
And so we continued filling the beds, and then it kind of sat here all winter.
Sure.
And I spent my winter planning what I wanted to plant, where I wanted to lay things out, archways, what I wanted, obelisks, that vertical interest.
Yeah.
So I spent all that time planning, and it really was a healing experience to occupy my mind,
Sure.
during that cold winter.
That makes sense.
And so that was really fun. So as I was planning it, somebody asked me if we decided to make this garden in her honor. And it hit me kind of like a ton of bricks at that moment that we actually had started it 2 months earlier out of the blue.
Yeah.
So I really do feel like this is her place. Sorry.
That's okay. Nice.
This is
So I
where
feel
we
like
talk to her.
this is her place, and it's been a healing experience. People talk about gardening is just getting your hands in the dirt. It's healing.
Yeah.
And it's been a lifesaver.
We're a happy place.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But so wintertime was spent planning, and I was very strategic about what I wanted to plant here because I'm not an expert gardener. He's a master gardener. I'm not, but I do love flowers.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make sure it was bountiful and blooming from beginning of the season all the way through fall. And we're sitting here in September, and there's still quite a lot of color in the garden.
Want blooms and interest in your garden no matter the season? There are a few tips that you can follow. Plant for successive interest, having spring, summer, and fall flowers and foliage planted near each other. Utilize a mix of bulbs, annuals, perennials, and shrubs to create a wave of color and texture for the entire growing season. And don't forget winter. In Zone 5, you can plant shrubs like Baton Rouge dogwood or Jetstream hydrangea that are great in the growing season, but also have fabulous winter interest with red stems or exfoliating bark.
And I wanted it to be high, and so I had graph paper mapped all over my kitchen, and I was like drawing, and I had it in pencil, so I was erasing, and so this is kind of the end product of that work. And so that was nice all winter. And then in the spring we just started planting and weeding, and I
What did you fill
stunned at
for
how
what did you
big
use
it's
for
gotten.
the soil?
So we used a mix of regular garden soil. So we had a dump truck of garden soil dumped. Is that what you call it? Garden
What's the
soil.
compost from the?
Well, we got compost
Yeah.
and garden soil.
Yeah.
So we it's a mixture of compost and garden soil.
So it's really nice.
And so we kind of
Cool.
layered that
Soil.
in.
Yeah.
And then it was able to sit all winter. And
Oh,
then
that's
the
nice,
snow
yeah.
came, and kind of got it
Did it
prepared.
settle a lot, or?
It settled some, but not a
yeah.
lot.
Not
So we
too
topped
much.
off with compost in the spring to make sure everything.
Okay.
Compost does tend
everything
to
was
settle down
ready.
because it's a lighter mix. So
Yeah.
So when you had all your plans, did you follow the plan, or? That's what I always
Yeah,
want to know.
we sort of.
Yeah.
I think part of with 22 raised beds.
Yeah.
When we planted from here to there.
Yeah,
And
okay.
so this is pretty much according to plan. But then once you get down to there, my daughter and I did most of the planting, and so we just started. How many of these you got? We just started stuffing things in everywhere, which is fine. And I thought about doing. I spent a lot of time over the winter researching cottage gardens, and some of them have kind of a color palette. And so I thought about doing a color palette, but then I kept going back to, I really want that color too.
Yeah.
And so then I just decided, you know what? Forget the color palette. We're just gonna look like a rainbow exploded in here, and that's what we're going for. And so I think that made it easier to plan too.
Yeah, that's
because then I
true.
could shove things in anywhere
Yeah.
I wanted.
Yeah.
So it turned out,
Lori's decision to plant whatever color she wanted has really paid off. But if you prefer a more cohesive color palette, an easy way to do that is to pick plants that have complementary or secondary colors. For example, if you have virtual violet lilac in your space, plant yellow daffodils nearby. The purple lilac color and the yellow complementary color will bring cohesion to your space.
Okay, let's take a walk then and check out some of these plants.
All right, let's do it.
So this is one of the beautiful beds in your garden, and I see you have a nice mix of annuals and perennials. Can you tell us a little bit about how you decided to put things together and what you were thinking?
Sure. So we decided to do a mix of perennials and annuals because I didn't want to fill in the entire garden with perennials from the get-go, because I wanted, since it was the first year, I wanted to kind of get a lay of the land and see what I liked and didn't like. So this is probably maybe 40% perennial, 60% annual. But we've got, for perennials in here, we've got some of the liatris, we've got veronica, phlox, yarrow.
daylily.
There's a daylily back there. There's a red echinacea and a yellow.
Nice.
You've got some foxglove, which is done, but foxglove is in there. Lavender, lady's mantle.
You have a lot, yeah.
So quite a few. And then we've got some dahlias mixed in, and I
Zinnias,
planted the
coleus,
zinnias because I made sure to plant zinnias and marigolds throughout, even though they're annual, but then I knew I could rely on color
Yeah.
throughout the entire season, and I
Sure.
just wanted to make sure. This first season is going to be weird too, because since I planted everything, it's not going to be in its normal bloom cycle.
Oh yeah, sure.
So it'll be
Yeah.
interesting next year to see what blooms when and how it all fits together.
Like Lori mentioned, sometimes things might not perform exactly how you'd expect in that first year, so just give it time to settle into its new home, and you'll start seeing it blooming and performing as normal in the next season or two.
Yeah.
Looks
good.
And we got hyacinth bean,
Yeah.
which is an annual. It's the first time I've grown hyacinth bean, and it's going crazy.
Going
It
nuts.
is.
I love it, and the hummingbirds love it.
Trim a
Yes,
lot.
we've seen a ton of hummingbirds out here, so it's fabulous.
So it's been
That's
really
great.
good. It's been fun.
Planting things in your garden that you know that pollinators like hummingbirds will love is so important. Plants like bee balm, lupin, petunia, fiber optics buttonbush, and butterfly bush like ruby grape will make your garden a destination for local hummingbirds and other pollinators.
And is there anything that you love about this bed or anything that you'd change?
So the one thing I think I learned is this is lemon verbena. I did not realize it would get this tall. So I probably would have put this in the middle and maybe the zinnias kind of on the outside.
Sure,
So
yeah.
that is a lesson learned, but both are annual, so I can do it over next year.
Right, that's right.
And then this, I'd never grown coleus before.
Oh yeah, it's
and
beautiful.
So my son works at the garden center, and so he said you have to have coleus just
Yeah.
because the foliage is so beautiful. So we have several different types of coleus throughout the garden.
Great.
But again, I had no idea it was going to be so tall.
It's very happy there.
So I've got my marigolds and Veronica, and then
Oh yeah.
so that's probably the biggest thing I think that would be a mistake, or maybe
Yeah.
a mistake, a lesson,
Yeah,
is how tall
Height
this
variances.
stuff get.
sure. Well, and that varies, depending on your soil and the moisture, that can vary a little bit too. So
For sure.
you get the sense of how your garden is
For sure.
operating.
Most
kind
definitely.
of.
And as
Yeah.
plants mature too, like a newer daylily, so it's going to mature
yeah.
and get larger.
Yes, take more space. Yeah, great.
Yeah. So the nice thing, the wonderful thing about gardening is you can make a mistake and it's fine. Like I'm not an expert gardener.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert gardener, and I just studied up on things
Yeah.
and just kind of used my imagination and learned some things, which will be fine. I can fix them next year. No harm,
Yeah.
no foul.
I absolutely love the attitude that Lori and Jim bring to gardening because it's really important to know that mistakes happen and sometimes plants just don't work out. So it gives you the opportunity to learn and try something new.
Exactly.
We definitely continue to learn every day. So.
Oh, for sure.
But it's fun to learn the lessons and try things.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
yeah.
And it's a beautiful
Yeah.
Experiment.
Yeah.
Even when you make a mistake, it's beautiful. So.
Yeah. These are beautiful
Yes.
mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have to do a lot of deadheading?
Yes. Yeah.
Certain ones.
Yeah. The yarrow requires a lot of deadheading. I probably should deadhead that foxglove.
Yeah.
But I'm letting some things go to seed because I'm hoping maybe we'll get some reseeding action
Oh,
happening.
yeah.
Lori mentions that she is intentionally letting some things go to seed. And what that means is that as the flower fades, some will develop seeds which then scatter on the ground and regrow new plants. In her case, she likes that because it's going to fill in some of that empty space. If you need a cleaner look, just make sure that you deadhead those plants before they go to seed.
So some things I'm intentionally deadheading late.
Yeah. Okay.
Like the zinnias, we're leaving a little longer.
Sure.
When we grow them for cut flowers, we're definitely deadheading more often, but we're leaving those because they add so much color when
Yeah.
they mature.
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
mature
As there's
blooms.
color.
Sure.
they're staying.
Great.
But yeah, and the phlox probably could be deadheaded. So
Yeah.
Dianthus.
It is a lot of deadheading. But
Nice.
there's enough bounty here that
Yeah.
you don't really notice
Yes. Yeah.
because your eye is drawn to
There's
where
like
the
cover
color's
for each
so
going.
other.
much color.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I did intentionally overplant. So I wanted to do that for weed suppression, and I wanted to create this overflowing garden
Yeah. Uh-huh.
feel. And so
Nice,
I
yeah.
did not follow any rules as it was related to plant spacing.
How did you Did you worry about that or just gonna plunk them in?
I did not worry about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I did not.
Yeah.
I just stuck, I think this is probably maybe 3 or 4
Oh,
yarrows.
okay.
And there's always
A
probably
lot
should
of we
be
grew
one.
from seed, so yeah.
So they're just very crowded, and they're still doing fine.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, it looks great.
Cottage gardens are known for having things planted closely together, which Lori and Jim have done here. Now, if you don't want to pack things in as close, you can determine the correct plant spacing by looking at the mature size of your plant. For example, if you're using 2 vanilla strawberry panicle hydrangeas next to each other, plant them about 6 feet apart on center as they mature to 5 to 6 feet wide.
Okay, let's take a look at the rest of the garden.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
This is so amazing. You can't even see the obelisk below.
True.
So, how did you? What's the structure underneath? And how did you make that?
So these are obelisks. They're triangles. You can't tell, but Jim actually built them from scratch himself.
Yeah, they're 4-sided. I just found a plan online. It didn't even have dimensions or anything, so I'm kind of a jack of all trades. So I just kind of
Yeah, I
winged it.
guess.
So, but they turned out pretty
Nice.
good.
Did you have to finish them or anything, or like sealant or anything?
I didn't since it was a treated wood. So.
Oh, it was treated. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And what do you have? And it's Moonflower?
So so I had an idea. This is one of those situations where you have these ideas, sometimes they work and don't. I would say this did not work. So it's moonflower and black-eyed Susan vine.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And my thought, and so it's a pink black-eyed Susan vine, and obviously it's supposed to be white moonflower.
Yeah.
But the moonflower foliage went so crazy, it
Yeah.
overtook the black-eyed Susan vine.
And
So
pushed it down.
if you look really carefully, you can see a few, but they really got overtaken.
Yeah.
And then the moonflower's not blooming for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
So I have big, tall green. So
Which is
next
very
year I will
pretty,
do
but
something different
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
But
Very interesting.
It sounded good in theory.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's just gardening, isn't it?
Obelisks like these are a great way to bring some height into the garden, and well, theirs didn't turn out exactly the way that they wanted. A plant that would thrive on an obelisk is honeybell honeysuckle. It grows a little bit less densely and has a waterfall of golden flowers that are a pollinator and hummingbird favorite, and in the fall will produce some beautiful red berries.
That's our obelisk. We have 4 of them.
Yep.
4,
And-
okay.
The OCD person in me, all 4 obelisks had to be the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
So they're all 4 moonflower and black-eyed Susan vine.
Yeah, good.
And then we have 4 arches at each end, and all of those are hyacinth beans.
And what are your arches made of? How did you make those?
So those we ordered online. I just
Okay.
found them, and they're like a metal,
Oh,
the
nice.
traditional
Yeah.
Black metal frame.
frame. Yeah,
Cool.
they're
And
black.
you were saying you put 4 on each arch?
Yeah, on
4
each side. So
on
there's a
each-
total of 8 plants on each arch, which might be why I've had to trim it so much.
Covered arches like these bring some unbeatable whimsy to the garden. Summer Cascade Wisteria is a perfect vine for a cottage garden with its long, draping lavender flowers and gorgeous green leaves. Summer Cascade is also really fast growing, so it would be perfect in a place like this.
I didn't know. I've
Yeah, sure.
never grown so much of this stuff.
Yeah.
So much of it was totally an experiment. So I don't know what the rule of thumb is,
Mm-hmm.
but I did 2 on each side because just in case something died,
Sure.
I would
Makes
have,
sense. Yeah.
have
Yeah.
a chance.
And I anchored them to the boxes too, obviously because of the weight and
Oh, yeah,
the wind.
that makes
We get a lot of
sense.
wind pressure out here.
Mhm. Oh, I bet you do, yeah.
But they're
Yeah.
definitely abundant.
Now, does the hyacinth mean make a good cut flower? Have you tried that yet?
So we have U-cut experiences out here at
Yeah.
the farm, and I have not used it in bouquets, but a lot of the U-cut people
our
do come
customers
over
have.
and get a couple sprigs.
And
to
that's
put
where
in there.
people come out and they can cut their own bouquets. Nice. That's
Yeah.
cool.
And they cut some in the cottage garden. I tell them they can, but this really isn't supposed to be truly a cutting garden. We have cut flower fields that they go into.
Yeah.
But they always wander in here and pick out
Yeah.
a few goodies because they'll come get the salvia sometimes
Sure.
and get the hyacinth.
Because we let these do what they want, and the cut flowers, we train them,
Yeah.
you know, more for long stems and straight stems. So.
Okay. That makes sense.
Just,
Yeah.
just goes crazy.
Cool. Okay, then let's go take a look at the rest of the garden.
Sounds good.
Now this pergola is really a centerpiece in the garden. It's really pretty. How did you find it? How did you choose this style?
I did actually spend a lot of time trying to decide what I wanted for the center of the garden.
Yeah.
And I was trying to decide, did I want metal to match the 4 arches or did I want something wood?
Yeah.
And I decided that I wanted something super substantial because it is a really big garden.
Yeah.
And so I wanted something that had a lot of weight and carried a lot of weight. And I felt
Makes
like
sense,
the
yeah.
heavy wood structure really anchored the center.
Yeah.
This pergola does a great job of breaking up the garden. If you have a hardscape or outdoor entertaining area like this and you want to bring a little touch of the garden in, a great go-to is placing decorative containers in the space. Containers with sapphire surf bluebeard, light of day hydrangea, or campfire rose would be a gorgeous addition to this cottage garden.
So we ended up just buying a kit
Yeah,
and hiring
nice.
someone to assemble it for us.
Perfect.
So it needs to be stained, but otherwise, I'm very pleased with how it turned out. I
Yeah.
feel like it really does centralize things. And then I haven't decided yet if I want something growing on here.
Like on the top, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I like the wood
or
look.
permanently up to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
It is nice to see the structure, but
It is,
yeah,
because-
but the cypress vines are beautiful.
Because the obelisks are completely covered and the archways are completely covered. So I
Yeah.
almost sort of like something just growing maybe on the
Sure.
pillars, but not over the entire thing.
Yeah.
So what I did for this year was I just put pots in here and I planted cardinal vines. So it has a little bit of, elevated
Yeah.
structure. And I think next year I'll continue with an annual, but probably not cardinal vine because it needs a little more water, and so they kind of struggled a little bit this year.
Yeah.
It was gorgeous though.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
love the red because red was our granddaughter Ava's favorite color.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So,
And the hummingbirds love it.
and the hummingbirds
They
love
do.
it. So
Yeah, I
maybe I'll
think-
just water it more next year and do it again. I don't know. But yeah, so I'm pleased with the annuals and leaving it natural wood.
Yeah, and this bed in front of us is gorgeous. I love the rudbeckia and the salvia together, really nice.
Yeah, these I grew so many things from seed this year.
Salvia is one of my favorite perennials, not only because it has a gorgeous look, but because it's a pollinator magnet too. I love to pair salvia with Above and Beyond rose. It is grown as a climber, or it also can be grown as an upright shrub. And the apricot flowers of Above and Beyond pair beautifully with salvia.
That I never had grown before.
Nice.
So this is Gloriosa Daisy.
Nice, yeah.
I did not know it was going to get so big, and if I would have known, again, I would have put it in the center because there is a dahlia in there.
Oh, yeah.
There's some Korean mint in there, which is a perennial, and like you can see that Echinacea buried down in
yeah,
there.
for sure, yeah.
So things need to maybe be moved around a little bit, but I love the sage salvia.
Yeah.
I got 3 colors, purple and then white, and then there's red scattered throughout the garden too,
Oh,
but
of
they've
course,
just grown in
Yeah, and
so abundantly.
The coleus looks great, too. Did you start that from seed as well?
I got this at the garden
The
center.
plant? Okay, nice.
I don't
Very
know,
good.
I've never tried growing coleus from seed.
You
before.
can't grow all of them from seed. There are some varieties you can
Okay.
grow from seed, but
Maybe I'll
that's a beautiful
Just
one.
adds so much color,
Yeah.
when you start to lose color in the later part of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the bright color combo here this late in the season.
Yeah.
We wanted pollinator friendly. Mm-hmm. Too. Our
Certainly
bee
have
friends.
that. We saw some bees just a little while
Lots
ago,
of
didn't
bees,
we?
yeah.
Lots of bees.
Yeah. Some bees and
So I'm pleased.
yeah.
Turned out pretty good.
That's good. That's good.
Looking for another late season bloomer that pollinators love? I talked about it with containers, but it's also fabulous in the landscape. Sapphire Surf Bluebeard brings cool tones with blue flowers in late summer and fall. If you live in a warmer climate, reblooming plants like chase tree and crepe myrtle are also fabulous for late season flowers.
It's good. This bed is just gorgeous. Let's go take a look at a few more.
Sounds good. Let's
perfect.
do it.
Now, Jim, I could not help but notice this beautiful daylily and the fact that it's September. So we have this gorgeous flower. What's the daylily, and tell us about that.
This is Omega Red, and we were actually getting lucky enough to see some of the rebloom. Most daylilies are reblooming, but being in Iowa, we just don't. Our season isn't extended long enough to see a lot of them.
Interesting. Interesting.
But yeah, Lori gave me a shopping list for different heights, and I did a good job on this one because it's the proper height for the center.
To be in the cottage garden, you have to be a tall daylily,
Yeah.
or you're just going to get swallowed up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That red daylily is absolutely stunning. One shrub that would pair wonderfully with that bright red is Cobalt and Gold Hypericum. It would be great for a cottage garden with its perfectly mounded shape and yellow flowers.
So yeah, it's a winner.
Nice. And you hybridize daylilies.
Yeah, I
don't you?
hybridize daylilies, and we actually grow them for sale too. So I've got over 500 different varieties of daylilies now. And
Amazing.
My goal is to have 1,000. So,
Cool.
but yeah, I love them. It's my passion, and
Yeah.
I've got thousands of seedlings out in the field.
Oh, that'll be fun to see. We'll have
Future
to come
hopefuls.
back and visit.
Most definitely, yeah.
Come back
For
in
sure.
July.
July,
Yeah.
it's spectacular to see the entire field, about an acre. all
Oh,
blooming.
wow. That'll be beautiful. I look forward to seeing that. So I noticed you have some dahlias over here, and I know you mentioned you were evaluating them. Maybe we can go take a look at those too.
Definitely.
Great. So I see you guys have this beautiful bed of dahlias, and I think you mentioned you started them from seed. Is that
Yes.
That's amazing.
This is the first time that we tried growing dahlias from seed. So we ordered seed and planted them this winter, sowed them this winter in our studio, and then planted them out here this spring. So we've got one whole bed here, and then a half a bed here.
Dahlias will bloom in midsummer through early fall, bringing fabulous color to your garden late in the season. If you're looking for something to pair with your dahlias, which have a finer petal, you can't go wrong with something with a broader leaf like Fire Dance Dogwood, Little Lady Lilac, or Amber Jubilee Ninebark.
So we're just kind of looking to see which varieties we like, which ones have stronger stems, beautiful blooms,
Good height.
good height, and so we'll dig up the tubers of the ones that we actually like, and then we'll replant them next year and see how they do next year. So there's a mix of varieties in here.
Do you have some favorites right now, or?
there's a two-tone color one over there. I like the little collarettes. The center of this one's kind of interesting when it's yellow. So I don't know, they all have their own little attributes, but we'll see which ones. I'm gonna start
Kinda
labeling
salmon-colored
them probably
Love
middle of
that.
September. I'll start just tagging which ones I like.
And then do you let the foliage die back and then dig them, or?
So
We'll let the frost kill it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, after first frost, we'll let it set for 2 or 3 weeks after that, and then we'll chop all foliage off and then dig them up and store 'em.
Dig the whole entire root ball of the store till probably about February.
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then do you start them in pots then?
We don't. We split them. He'll split them throughout winter. We have hundreds of dahlias in the cut flower field that we'll dig and then store them all winter, and then we plant them out in May.
So I'll come out on a nice day with my rain gear and I'll blast all the dirt off and then let them dry, and then I'll surgically kind of go in and start separating the tubers.
But yeah, so I'll probably keep maybe 20% of these. The rest, probably not. We'll see.
Well, they look good, just like the whole garden. It's been a beautiful, beautiful tour. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for coming out.
We'll hope to come back, see you next year, talk about daylilies, maybe cut flowers,
Yes.
some
Most
things.
Most definitely. My
Yeah,
passion.
or come back in the spring, because we're going to be planting hundreds, you don't know this yet, we're going to be planting hundreds of tulip and daffodil bulbs in here.
Oh, cool.
And I have some allium and maybe some hyacinth as well. So we're going to plant that all the way through so that we have color right away, first thing, before everything else gets planted.
Well, we
So
will definitely be
we'll-
back and come see that.
We're not, this is just year one. We're not done.
That'll be great. This is
Thank
great.
you so much for coming out.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yes, it was fun.
Yeah.
And there you have it. Thank you so much to Lori and Jim for welcoming us into their spectacular cottage garden, and to Sherry and the Garden Gate magazine team for leading the tour. I really hope that you enjoyed and can walk away with tons of inspiration and ideas on how to steal the look and make it a reality in your garden. Make sure to share your gardens with us at First Edition's Shrubs and Trees, because I can't wait to see what you create. Happy gardening, and I'll see you next time on Steal the Look.